Hello, welcome to the JimRPG show. Today is the 5th of June 2020, and what a crazy week it's been. And as you know, we always start with the most important topic of the week, and I think it's safe to say that the most important topic is Black Lives Matters. And you know, this is a gaming channel, and we don't often do politics and other news on here, but it's so important that even channels like ourselves that are very small right now, we need to be held accountable. Maybe someday we'll be a bit bigger than we are currently, and people are going to look back and say, hey, where were you and where was your position when this happened? And you know, I feel like my channel is a blog of everything that's going on right now, especially the JimRPG show, where we're trying to do it every week. And it's important for us to talk about these type of things. And, you know, I see a lot of media outlets that are doing blackouts. At least on Tuesday, they were doing blackouts and not posting any media information, which is absolutely the right thing to do because they have a large audience, and it's really important not to divert our attention right now on anything else other than Black Lives Matters. But I think because we're a small site, we also need to fill in the gaps as well, and just put out as much of this information as we can. We've got to be held accountable for what happens. Just because we're a small channel doesn't mean that we don't we just ignore these type of issues and go on and continue to post gaming, because that's not the most important thing right now. So at the very least, we're going to spend a bit of time on Black Lives Matters at the start of the show. Then we will get on to the rest of the gaming news for this week. But I think it's so important for us to, because I think on the surface, a lot of the media coverage is just racism. And I've always taken the position where we need to look at the root causes of everything. So for something like this, even though I'm not an American, I only hold an outside view of this, it's still important to get our voices heard. This is a global community now, and you see all over the world, people are holding protests in every city, from New Zealand to cities in Europe. People can no longer accept racism in our lives. People can no longer accept injustice and inequality. Now, a lot of all of this has to do with the fact that this is more than George Floyd. By itself, this is an incredibly horrible crime. But we can't forget the fact that this is not the first time it's happened. There have been so many other lives lost. And this is happening all the time. I think what people have to realize and come to terms with is the fact that it's not just one cop, or it's just not one white person. And it's not about, oh, not all of us are bad. It's about the systemic issues of our society and how, for the longest period of time, humans have decided to run it this way because the ruling class have decided to want to run it this way. So in effect, I think what I'm trying to say is that these are societal issues, and there are people at the top who could put change to this, but because this system works well for them, they don't want to put change into it. A large part of this has to do with unregulated capitalism. Now, if you look at capitalism in its purest form, it ultimately boils down to slavery. And for the longest time, America and many other nations had slavery, and there was an abolishment of slavery, but has it really disappeared from our lives? When you look at all the videos online, does it look like slavery has been abolished? With so much police brutality on the streets, who is the police looking after? They're paid for the people, but are they really working for the people? The police seems to be under the orders of the people at the top, the people in the government, looking after their interests. And the government is supposed to work for the people. I mean, it's just incredible to think about it, that people could be screwed over like this. Ordinary people, the people that you use for your labor to do hard work for you, and then you go and punish them and tell them that you need them to remain, to stay by the rules of society. And when you look at capitalism, you know, unregulated capitalism, technically, what is the difference between slavery and what is capitalism? If someone gets paid $3 an hour at Waffle House, is that slavery or is that capitalism? Is that we cheer on these capitalists saying how great it is that they make so much money, but where did it come from? Who did they screw over to make so much money? You see them driving around in their Ferraris, boasting about how wonderful they are. Who did you have to hurt to for this to happen? Why aren't they paid a living wage? So when you have this type of inequality, when you have people living in their own neighborhoods, when they're afraid to go to other neighborhoods because of a fear that they might get attacked, then there's something wrong with your society. At the end of the day, everybody just wants to go home, live a good life, go to their family. They want to work for a living wage. They don't want to work for 20, 30 years paying off their mortgage. They just want to live, and they're not going to hurt anyone. The capitalists still can go out and make their money, but they don't have to screw over the general population to do it. So I feel like a large part of this comes down to the way our society works, and in part, a lot of it comes down to the people at the top who got to the top and want to stay at the top. And it's time for, and people say, well, just vote them out. But you look at the latest Democratic primary, you look at how Bernie suspended his campaign. You look at how easily it was for the establishment to get rid of Bernie. Basically just having Pete and Beto and Amy Klobuchar lining up to get rid of Bernie, and it took less than, I would say, a weekend to get rid of Bernie's momentum, and the progressive cause was destroyed. And some people will say, well, America is not ready for progressiveness. So what are they ready for exactly? Are they ready for carnage on the streets? Is this what you really want instead of Bernie? You want a racist comedian in the White House just to uphold your white privilege? You know, that if that's what you want, then I'm sorry, we're gonna have to stand up and say no. Because there's probably 95% of people who don't want this, who just want a regular peaceful life. So what can we do in response to this? If we've identified that it's our society that's wrong, and there are people at the top, the capitalists, that control the system, then we have to hold them accountable. And capitalists only talk and negotiate when it comes to their money. So we have to get rid of their money, get rid of their control on society. Don't stand for these guys when they pretend to brush off something like Black Lives Matters, or only act in their best interests if Black Lives Matters means that it's going to lose them customers. Don't stand for that. You know exactly when they are sincere or not. You know when people fight for these causes over a period of time and not just when it's convenient for them. So all of these companies, you know, and people say, hey, you can't name these billionaires. Like, you know, give me some proof. Like, these billionaires did something wrong. We're talking about George Soros, we're talking about Warren Buffett, we're talking about Bill Gates, we're talking about Walmart, we're talking about Amazon, we're talking about Google. All of these companies that could potentially fix the problem right now if they really wanted to. They could all come together, 20 of them, 100 of them in the one room, and say, hey, look, we don't need to have this type of society anymore. We can make this society work for the benefit of us if everybody is together. These are the people that want to keep the system as it is right now, with the capitalist system, with the racism, with the injustice, with the police brutality, because they're scared. They are looking after their own interests. If you want to get rid of these guys, you have to say no. You have to say, no, I'm not going to shop at Amazon anymore. I'm going to use DuckDuckGo. And obviously, I know I'm on the YouTube platform right now. If there's a viable option, we go there, you know. I don't have much to lose. But there are other things that can hurt people, you know. We don't need like all the consoles. We don't need all the games. We don't need to own a Sony PlayStation 5 and an Xbox Series X and a Nintendo Switch 2. We don't need all of this, you know. Reduce the clutter in your life. Get rid of as many of these and pare it down to the essentials. If you don't need to use Amazon, don't use Amazon. Of course, you know, people say, hey, I use an iPhone, I don't want to use Android. Fine. I mean, just don't spend money on iTunes and don't spend it on the App Store. Do something. Make it real change, okay? Even if you yourself reduce your spending by 20-30%, that's a 20 to 30% decline in their accounting, in their in their revenues. So hit them, hit them where it hurts, because they're desperate for, all they care about is money, and we need to make change. We need to do better. And how does this, I guess, to finish off, I wanted to say, well, how does this affect gaming? Well, just as I said, we don't have to stand for these guys. We don't have to be their fanboys. We don't have to be Sony's fanboys or Microsoft fanboys. We all want them to do well, yes, but the crazy memes and buying every single game that they make, buying at full price to give them the greatest margin possible, we don't have to do that. Okay, treat these guys and hold them accountable if you really believe in it. So and you know, for this channel, we're gonna call them out. We're gonna call them out anytime that they seem like they're not pro-consumer, you know, when they're not fighting the good fight for you. Yeah, we're gonna call them out. So I guess to round off and say, this battle for well, human rights, Black Lives Matters, is an ongoing process. So, you know, you see the cops kneeling on the street, don't think it's over. You know, this is an ongoing process that's going to take time. It's not an overnight thing. People don't just switch off their racism overnight. People need the time to develop, but we got to start now, and before it's too late. And that's really all I want to say right now. If I have more thoughts, I'll add it up as another video later on, because there needs to be more talk about Black Lives Matters. Right. So let's segue into what some of the other companies are doing, and start off with our news stories today. And Sony, they're delaying this week's PlayStation 5 event. Well, let me try do that again. Yep. So Sony is delaying this week's PS5 event, and I think they have a message here. Because originally they were going to unveil some PlayStation 5 games on June the 4th, and now they've announced in a tweet, we have decided to postpone the PlayStation 5 event scheduled for June 4th. While we understand gamers worldwide are excited to see PS5 games, we do not feel that right now is a time for celebration, and for now, we want to stand back and allow more important voices to be heard. Earlier in the day, the PlayStation account released a statement denouncing systemic racism and violence against the black community, ending with a hashtag for Black Lives Matters, sparked by the recent deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and, you know, all the other names: Ahmaud Arbery, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Trayvon Martin. They need to list more names. But anyway, large protests against police brutality and systems of racist oppression have taken place in cities across the United States and around the world, while people gather in the streets to call for reform and justice. PlayStation and several other large companies have expressed support for the Black Lives Matter movement. And that's exactly right. We don't need this PlayStation 5 event right now. That can come. The PlayStation 5 is not even out yet. We got to turn our focus on Black Lives Matters. That's why I've dedicated most of this show to Black Lives Matters. And we have to denounce all of this systemic racism. We have to understand where it comes from. And, Sony, while they didn't call out the causes of it, they've at least said the systems of racist oppression that have plagued the world since forever. We really have to understand where all of this came from. Call of Duty Modern Warfare Season 4 delayed. Now is not the time. So again, this is Activision and Infinity Ward choosing not to say anything about their latest DLC for their Call of Duty game. While we all look forward to playing the new seasons of Modern Warfare Warzone and Call of Duty Mobile, now is not the time. We are moving the launches of Modern Warfare Season 4 and Call of Duty Modern Mobile Season 7 to later dates. Right now is time for those speaking up for equality, justice and change to be seen and heard. We stand alongside you. Yeah, so, I hope that this is not just a one-off thing, like I said earlier. It needs to be all the time and in your face until we see more equality, and until we see things that are equal for everybody. And we're not talking even just about violence. We're talking about equality everywhere, in our work and in our daily lives, and yeah, I don't have much more right now to say. Okay, again, EA. Now, EA, Madden. So, as you all know, NFL, or basically blackballed Colin Kaepernick. And, Colin was just doing what he thought was the moral thing to do, kneeling for the national anthem, and he got called out by all the people standing for white privilege, all the white nationalists, and for what? So when he was protesting peacefully, you didn't like that? Well, this is what happens when you can't protest peacefully. You get violent protests. Now, when I say violent protests, seems like a lot of the violence is from the police itself. And of course, there are there's the police brutality, there's the rioting and the looters that we can't forget. And of course, there's going to be collateral damage. My God, I just noticed his hand is missing. I didn't even know that. Maybe that's a glitch. Is that a glitch? Now, EA delayed Madden 21. EA delayed Madden 21 reveal in light of protests against police brutality. So this is their message. It's time. Tomorrow we had committed to celebrating Madden NFL 21 with you. But we're not going to do that now. We stand with our African American Black community of friends, players, colleagues, and partners. Our immediate attention is on actions we can take to drive change against the unjust treatment and systemic bias that is plaguing the nation and our world. We'll find another time to talk football with you, because this is bigger than a game, bigger than sports, and needs all of us to stand together and commit to change. It should rightfully be pointed out that Madden doesn't have a shining track record of supporting protests. As plenty noted already on Twitter, EA actually removed a mention of Colin Kaepernick's name from the song Big Bang by YG, which featured on the soundtrack for Madden 19, censoring it as though it was a profanity. You might remember that Kaepernick first started protesting police brutality almost 4 years ago in the 2016 NFL season, kneeling during the national anthem in the San Francisco 49ers' third preseason game. Kaepernick would become a free agent after the 2016 season was over and would go unsigned for years. He filed a grievance against the NFL in November 2017, accusing owners of colluding to keep him out of the league. In February 2019, Kaepernick reached a confidential settlement with the NFL. Now, if you look at that, is he or is he not blackballed? He was perfectly capable of playing. He had a role in the 2016 season. He could at least be a backup role, if I'm not mistaken. And it appears that all the owners did not want him. Now, these are the people that I keep saying that we need to stand up against to combat the systemic racism and the systemic injustice and inequality. These are the people. And, Kaepernick, if he's going to protest, he was protesting peacefully. And this is what happens. If you don't listen to the peaceful protests, you're going to get violent protests. By the way, it just seems like all of the protests, the violent protests, a great deal of it has come from the police side. The police that are supposed to look after the people. Who are the police defending? Now, this isn't gaming news, but I thought I'd squeeze this in here because I just want to show what happens when it appears that a company is doing something for the cause, but really they kind of just want to brush you off. They basically want to pay you off or placate the masses. And so tech companies and execs announce over 20 million in donations after killing of George Floyd. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said his company is contributing 10 million to groups working on racial justice. Cisco CEO Chuck Robbins tweeted that the networking company is donating 5 million to a number of organizations and said, "This is just the beginning." Other executives and venture capitalists said they would match funds provided by colleagues and friends. Note that they are making a one-time direct contribution to brush you off and hope that you forget what happens in a week or 2 weeks. They don't want any systemic change. They don't want an equal living wage. They don't want to change any of that. They want to keep everything the same. And they will do it with a one-time payment of 10 million. And Mark Zuckerberg is worth something like 100 billion. So this is 10 divided by 10,000 basically, or 1/1000th of his net worth. So he has, if he was worth 100 billion, he would have 99.99 billion left. That's how much he cares for you. 0.01%. Doesn't give a shit. And so, please guys, as I have already done for at least 8 years, stop using Facebook. Okay, Facebook is, nobody needs Facebook. Just pick up the phone, call, use Twitter for all your social needs. Not saying Jack Dorsey is the greatest guy. At least he donated $1 billion of his $3 billion net worth to the COVID-19 pandemic. But these people, that's how much they care for you, 0.01%. And this is the Apple Executives Board, and I tweeted out, not a single black person on the Apple board. Think about that. And, you know, what does that tell you? You know, where is the representation? And Apple, yes, they've made some inroads into the female demographic, but there's not a single black person there. Black people don't use smartphones now. Their voice doesn't count. It doesn't make sense. And these are guys who love their leadership positions. They love having all the power. Don't let their smiles fool you. Yes, I have an Apple iPhone. No, I'm probably not going to get rid of it. But no, I'm not going to spend a nickel more than I have to. I bought an iPhone XR. And yeah, well, maybe I'm just going to keep it for like 5 or 6 years, you know. Because it works perfectly fine. I don't need another mobile phone. I don't need to keep giving this company money. They're not your friends. Buy it only when you need it. Okay, so some gaming news now. Let's cover the rest of the gaming news this week. And Sega, they've announced the Game Gear Micro, and for Sega's 60th anniversary, and you can see how big it is. And I would probably say, judging by this photograph, that is probably smaller than the Game Boy Micro. This thing is really small. I mean, like, compare the size of that person's thumb versus the D-pad. This is going to be a problem to play. And just look and see how small Sonic is right there in Sonic the Hedgehog. He couldn't be more than like 5 pixels big. The only thing I think that's decent about this is that it looks the same as the Game Gear. But anyway, so I think the twist here is that it's going to come in 4 colors. So there's a yellow, and there's a red, black, and blue, and yeah, and there are 4 games for each color. Each Game Gear Micro is going to cost $60, $50 or $60. I think it's 50. I think it's, well, around $50 or $60. Now, the games are, let me see, I wrote them down here somewhere. So yellow is Shining Force 1, Shining Force 2, and Shining Force Final Conflict. So this is the Shining Force handheld. And Natso Puyo Puyo, so it's a Puyo Puyo game. Aluro. So it looks like there's some sort of like curry cooking type Puyo Puyo type game. Puyo Puyo is like a similar game to Tetris. Okay, so red has Megami Tensei Last Bible 1, Megami Tensei Special, Game Gear Shinobi, and Columns. So I haven't played any of these games, so I can only tell you their titles. Obviously I know what Shinobi, Shining Force, Columns, and all that are, but I haven't played the Game Gear versions of them. I had a friend who actually had a Game Gear, and he spent all his pocket money. This was like when we were 8. He spent all his pocket, because he loved Master System, so he decided he wanted the handheld version. He saw the tech for it at the time, and you know, at the time Game Boy was running off like 4 AAA batteries. 4 AA batteries, and you would get maybe like 15 hours of battery time per 4 AA batteries. And he bought this Game Gear, and he would run 6 AA batteries, and it would last like 2 hours. And I don't remember how much batteries cost back then, but it would have been pretty expensive to play 2 hours worth of Sonic, especially when he actually had a master system anyway. So I think he bought the AC adapter for it. I mean, if you didn't buy it, then you'd have to be crazy, obviously. And if he's listening to this sometime in the future, I think he knows who he is. He also bought the TV outlet because it came with you plug it into the game cartridge and you could view live TV on it, and it had the aerial as well. He bought that. But anyway, well, let's get to finishing off naming all of these games. Yeah, so the black Game Gear has Sonic, Outrun, Puyo Puyo 2, and Royal Stone. I don't know Royal Stone, but I know the other 3 games well. If I had to get one, it'd probably be the black one, and it seems like they've chosen the black one to have like the best games. So I guess yeah, they did that on purpose. The blue Game Gear has Sonic and Tails, which I believe is probably Sonic 2, Gunstar Heroes, Sylvan Tail, and Baku Baku Animal. That's not too bad either. I don't know about Sylvan Tail and Baku Baku Animal, but I think Gunstar Heroes would be difficult to play on that system. There's just so much shooting and there's so much action going around that it'd be impossible. I think something like Outrun makes sense because you're kind of just steering around the course anyway. Columns is going to be tough. Like, it's going to be so small on that to see all the individual pieces, puzzle parts. So, and then look, Shining Force, I think it would be just about impossible to play. I mean, I guess if you don't know Japanese anyway and want to play it, it wouldn't matter anyway because you couldn't read it. But I don't know how you're going to be able to read text on that system. You wouldn't be able to. And now, look, so because you can't actually see anything, they've included. So sorry, you have to buy this accessory. It's a I guess microscope or a magnifying glass of some sort to make the screen bigger. So this is all kinds of sad. This thing will be like $10 within 6 months. I don't know who wants this. Like, this is just, I'm really sorry to say, this is just completely, it's a complete fail of a product. And, you know, why not even just sell one of these? Why have to sell 4 colors? Like, I think you would actually get more people buy it if you sell one with 16 games versus 4 different colors with 4 games each. It just, do you expect people to carry 4 of these around? So it boggles the mind. I don't know what Sega are thinking. They've clearly lost it this time around. You know, Toshihiro Nagoshi, you know, he makes games that I really love, and if he's sitting there right now, head of Sega, or at least head of the games department in Sega, please, I don't know what you're thinking. Do something about this and come out with a Game Gear Micro 2 that does it actually properly. Because this is just this makes no sense. Nobody's gonna buy this. Okay, we have some game announcements this week, even though you know, there was so much Black Lives Matter stuff, but Project Cars 3 has been announced, and you can check the trailer for yourselves. But I've already watched it, and it looks kind of more like the same. So if you like Project Cars, this game is coming out, they said, in summer 2020 on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Now, for me personally, I found Project Cars, the first one, difficult to like. Now, I only played that about 5 hours, so I didn't get through everything, but I would say that I played more than enough to know that the handling wasn't really for me. And ultimately, that was my biggest issue with the game, because you would play this, and then you would play something like Assetto Corsa, and the Assetto Corsa handling was just a lot more accurate, or at least a lot. It felt like there was a lot more control, a lot more feedback. And this is with a steering wheel as well, a Logitech G27. Now I don't know how it plays with a controller. People have said in this thread that they've said that the controller isn't that great either. And Project Cars 2, they didn't end up fixing a lot of these issues. Now, I don't want to poop the game because we haven't played it and all that. Maybe it's changed. I would say the biggest problem for Project Cars is that it's got a lot of competition right now. It's got competition from Gran Turismo Sport on the PlayStation 4. Gran Turismo Sport, when it first came out, people had problems with it because there wasn't a lot to do, and there was no single player version. So within around a month, they came out with like the old GT League with all of the competitions for single player on it, which made the game a whole lot better and more like past Gran Turismo titles. Now, the reason they didn't do that to begin with was because they wanted everybody to go and play online. They wanted everyone to play multiplayer. But there's 100 million PlayStation 4 units out there, and only 41 million of them are online that are PlayStation Plus members. There's still 60 million people that want to play Gran Turismo, and so I'm glad that they came out with a update for the single player gamers. Now, since then, they've been updating it every month for the last 2 years. So the game is huge now. And that's why I say it's a problem for Project Cars, because Gran Turismo has something like 300 cars. It has 84 tracks. The game is a behemoth. Like, every time I want to go and play the game, there's an update for it. So I can't play the game. I think Project Cars, it's going to have a difficult time competing against Gran Turismo. I don't see, if you're on PlayStation 4, I don't see why you would go off Gran Turismo, which leaves Xbox One and PC. Now, on PC, there are so many racing simulators already, like iRacing, and there are plenty of other racing games as well. If you don't want to pay full price, $60 for Project Cars 3, just go ahead and play Project Cars 1 and 2, and they can be had for like $10. So Project Cars 3, it needs to get its gameplay correct first. So we have to wait and see until the game comes out, see what the reviewers say. I'm not even sure, like, because some of the reviewers, they kind of seem like they don't play it enough. And I know I only played it for 5 hours, but when you don't play a game enough, or you're not a racing game player, then people will just assume that because of the pretty graphics of the game that it plays fine, that they put a lot of work into it. But a lot of people, it's not just me on this thread right now, have said that Project Cars feels off. And so I think that's an issue. I think if they fixed it, then they will have they may do a bit better. But if they don't fix the handling issue, then yeah, it's just going to come out like the first two Project Cars. Now, this is a big game. It's not a indie title or anything. So if this doesn't do well for Codemasters, then I don't know. There won't be another Project Cars. Basically, this is probably its last shot. Okay. Elite Dangerous also had an announcement this week. Elite Dangerous Odyssey is the new expansion, and it's going to come out in 2021. And you can watch the trailer yourself. I'll put a link in the description below. But basically it says, stretch your legs by taking on missions, getting into fights, or hanging out in social hubs. After keeping us crammed inside spaceships and planetary vehicles for years, Elite Dangerous will let us stretch our tired space legs in its next expansion, Odyssey. You'll be able to drop down to worlds, hop out of your ship, and go for a wander, or maybe fight in first person. Now, if you haven't played Elite Dangerous, and it's out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, basically it's a space simulator, but it tries to simulate like a massive part of the galaxy. And when I say massive part of the galaxy, I mean, once you boot up the game and you see the number of solar systems and systems within systems, it kind of boggles the mind. Like when you zoom out of it, it's pretty insane how they did it. There's definitely some tech wizardry in Elite Dangerous. So that part is really cool. And then there's a lot of spaceship fighting in the game, and there's running errands, I guess you could call it that. Some people call it a space truck simulator, like Euro Truck Simulator, where you're doing, I guess, delivering goods from one solar system to another. So that's been the main thrust of the game. And then with Horizons, they added planets on it, so you could actually go down and on the atmosphereless planets anyway, you could go down to the planet and then dig up resources and go mining and that sort of thing. You couldn't go to an Earth-like environment yet, because it hadn't been added, because that's an atmospheric planet and not an unatmospheric planet. But anyway, now with Elite Dangerous, you'll actually be able to see your character and walk out of your ship. Now, I thought the trailer was a little bit disappointing because it doesn't really show enough, and it basically shows you getting out of the spaceship and walking around, and there's nothing there. There's no space-based building, for example. They don't show you doing anything on the planet. We're just going to have to wait and see for more information on that. But yeah, finally a new expansion for Elite Dangerous, because I think Horizons came out 2017 or 2018. So it's been at least 2 or 3 years since the last expansion. So look out for that. That will be early 2021 when it comes out. Now, we already know Total War, the next Total War game, Total War Sega Troy, was coming out. However, they've announced that it's going to have a Epic exclusive launch. Now, before the Steam people get mad, Sega or Creative Assembly, they've decided that they're going to make it free for the first 24 hours. Now, this might be one of the very few times that a game has gone free in the first 24 hours, which is totally insane. So bookmark that date into your diary. It's going to be free for 24 hours on Epic Gamestore on August the 13th. And then after that, Epic Gamestore will have a 12-month exclusive. So if you haven't played a Total War game, it combines like the 2D strategy simulator, like a Civilization type of game, with a 3D battle simulator. So you can actually go and fight in the battles. And I've only played one of the Total War games, and it was pretty fun. I would like to play more of them. There's just so many games to play that it's hard to, I guess, play them all. So we're going to move to some hardware news now. And PC Gamer came out with this story, I believe, a couple of days ago, that Big Navi will be AMD's first RDNA 2 based product not next-gen consoles. So this is their new graphics card that will be coming out, and they're saying it's going to come out before the next-gen consoles, and now we roughly believe that the next-gen consoles will probably be out in around October, November. So basically they're saying that AMD's new card will be out in August, September. Now, so a lot of other media outlets are reporting that AMD's next card will be out before next-gen consoles. Now, I went to look and see what the guy actually said for the quote, and I don't think that's exactly what he meant. So he says, let me read the PC Gamer part first. And the fact that Big Navi is going to be based on the upcoming RDNA 2 architecture means that it's going to have support for whatever AMD's take on ray tracing is going to look like. I mean, it's surely going to look a lot like NVIDIA's, given that Microsoft's DirectX ray tracing is the API hook for the PC games right now. We still don't know the exact details. Hang on. That's not what I wanted to read. Okay, here we go. There's a lot of excitement for Navi 2, or what our fans have dubbed as the Big Navi, says Devinder Kumar, AMD CFO, at the recent Bank of America Securities Global Technology Conference. This will be our first RDNA 2 based product, full stop. Now, PC Gamer has run with this and said that RDNA 2 or Navi will be before consoles. And I really think that they should have clarified. Maybe this guy was just speaking at a conference and couldn't be interrupted, but maybe he meant this will be our first RDNA 2 based product for PCs, because you can have Big Navi and Small Navi. You can still have RDNA 2 small product, but the Big Navi will be coming out first. So I don't know if this is correct in saying that it's not next-gen consoles. So we need more information. We need to see. So don't. I wouldn't just say that these are coming out in August or September, because that would be ahead of schedule. And I think all of the past rumors, there's been so many AMD rumors in the last couple of months. But yeah, there's no reason to believe all of them. I think they keeping these rumors out there so that they keep getting, I guess, attention, and AMD continues to get attention and build up to the launch. So maybe it's not all correct. Now, a lot of the other rumors were saying that Big Navi was next year, early 2021. And, with the pandemic right now and with production, we already know that the consoles are coming out end of this year in October, November. So what I would have to say that those ones are definitely coming out first. Is it possible that Big Navi will come out August? It's possible, but I don't think it will, simply because all of the past rumors said that it wasn't, and that doesn't feel like the roadmap to me. That doesn't feel like AMD would do this. I think, and also, NVIDIA, they're on track for around August, September. So potentially they could come out at the same time, but I really feel like AMD is focusing on the consoles, getting PlayStation 5 APUs and Microsoft Xbox Series X APUs out there, getting as much production of that as they can, and then going on after that and ramping up production, maybe say in November, December for RDNA 2 graphics cards. Video cards, they have a scoop on Intel's 11th gen core processor, and we've just had the 10th gen come out a couple of weeks ago with Comet Lake S, the 10900K series, or the 10 series CPUs, and now they found a 11th gen core processor in the 3D Mark database. So 3D Mark is the benchmarking software that everybody uses, and they have to upload a score for their CPU or GPU, and they found that this was an 11th gen CPU. Now the Rocket Lake CPUs are coming out possibly early next year, end of this year, early next year. So and I'll just read a little bit of this because it's easier. The processor has 8 cores and 16 threads, meaning we might be looking at the top tier model from the lineup. The rumors were quite clear not to expect a 10 core or anything with more cores from the upcoming platform. Intel Rocket Lake is the first new architecture not based on Skylake. Skylake is the 600 series. So it's 600, 700, 800, 9, at least 5 generations. Intel has been on Skylake because they've had massive problems with their 14 nanometer fabrication process, and they've been on 14 nanometer ever since. Now Rocket Lake will continue to be on 14 nanometer, so it might be the one after Alder Lake that will actually, I believe it's Alder Lake, that may have better CPU gains when it gets down to like the 10 nanometer. They've been working on the 10 nanometer process. Now, where was I? This is an important launch for Intel as it brings much needed change to the CPU market. It appears that Rocket Lake will still be based on a 14 nanometer fabrication processor though. The Rocket Lake S series will be supported by already launched Intel 400 series motherboards. Manufacturers struggle to tell us that their motherboards will support PCI Express Gen 4, despite the fact that Comet Lake does not support it. What they meant to tell is that their motherboards are Rocket Lake S ready because new series will support the newer generation interface. I'm not sure what they mean by that. I want to know if these Comet Lake boards support PCI Express 4. So I think they should, but you really have to go and look at each individual motherboard to verify if they support PCIe Gen 4. Comet Lake, the 10 series, does not. And PCIe Gen 4 is especially important for the SSDs if you wanted to run at even faster SSD speeds like the PlayStation 5. Now, if you want to build a like-for-like PlayStation 5 PC style PC, you want to use a PCI Express Gen 4, which can get you up to those high 5 gigabits per second SSD speeds. Now, anyway, what I wanted to say about all of this is that has Intel gone mad that they want their top tier to have 8 cores, 16 threads? I mean, they are literally giving up the top end of the market, and in fact, they're giving up their entire desktop lineup. Right now, if you look at the 10th gen, the only processor that makes sense to buy is the 10900K and possibly the 10600K. But once you get to the 10600K, the 6-core 12-thread, there's so many options there, and you get muddled with all of the price ranges. So somebody who wants like a 6-core, they could also get a 3600 for like $50-$60 less with an AMD, or you could move up to a 3700X for similar amount of money, and you'd get 8 cores that way. So the 10600K, it's for a specific person in mind who wants to play their games as fast as possible, because there is, I believe there's a 5-10% advantage to the Intel CPUs between the 10600K and the Ryzen 3600, but the Ryzen 3600 is a lot cheaper. So now with their top tier 11 gen only having 8 cores and 16 threads, people are going to compare that to the 3700X, which has 8 cores and 16 threads. So, and then that leaves the 3900X all on its own, the AMD Ryzen 3900X, the Ryzen 3950X, all on its own, and AMD has sewn up the low-end, mid-end market anyway. So Intel are hardly selling any of these low-end, mid-tier CPUs, and really the people that were getting into Intel CPUs, they would have just got the top end, the 10900K, which was about 10% faster than the 3950X or 3900X playing games. So like if you wanted to play games, only play games, nothing else, then maybe you'd consider a 10900K, even though it has 10 cores, 20 threads, and then the 3900X has more cores and more threads. So honestly, for most people, it makes more sense to get the AMD Ryzen 3900X. We don't really know exactly how much faster this will be, so maybe there is some sort of when it finally comes out, we'll know whether this compared to the AMD version of it, how much faster it's going to be. But right now, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense not to come out with chips that compete at that high-end level with AMD. AMD is just going to run off with the top end of the market, the top of the end market that Intel used to have, right? Like Intel used to run the top end of the market, 10900K, and they're literally giving it away because they don't want to put a product out at the top end. So yeah, this is suicide, I think, for Intel. And there is a benchmark score there, but it doesn't say what test that they used, whether it was TimeSpy or Firestrike. So we don't really know how this compares. It has a physics score of 18898, and you know, you could overclock, underclock that. I don't know what's going on, so it's too hard to say what that speed is right now. We need more information on that and how it compares to other processors. Okay, we have one more story that we left off last week, which was the AMD Ryzen 3900 XT and the Ryzen 7 3800 XT. Now, these are also CPUs spotted in 3D Mark database, and there are some, well, it says unconfirmed AMD Ryzen specifications, but I think they would probably be pretty close to good because people have already seen the chips out there already. I think people have seen the chips out there already. And we roughly know that it's probably going to be about 5 to 7% faster. So if it's going to be 5 to 7% faster, that roughly puts it on to exactly the same level as the Intel 10th gen core. And so really what AMD is doing with this is they're saying they're not going to wait another 6 months for Ryzen 4000 to come and beat them. No, they're going for Intel's jugular right now. They're going to put out exactly the same chips at lower prices. This is the price war that AMD is going for. So Ryzen 9 3900X previously was 3.8 gigahertz base clock, 4.6 turbo clock, and now it's a 4.1 base clock. It was $499. You can expect it probably, the 3900 XT, to be $499. 3900X, they'll probably drop it. They've already dropped it in price to $410 now. And actually, if you get the 3900X, that's a deal at $400 because you can see with a turbo clock you can clock it almost as good as a 3900 XT. Now this might go further, but I believe this is really a internal factory overclock on the CPU. So it's probably the same sort of chip. Maybe it's binned a bit higher, but I think if you get a 3900X for 20% off the previous price, so like $400, that would be the better deal than the XT. And they could be running these 3900Xs out, you know, so just go and watch for sales online. So we also have the 3800 XT, which is the 8-core 16-thread version. We have the 3600 XT as well, and I believe they'll probably all be about the same as the old price, with a boost clock, and that boost clock, that increase in clock is probably going to make it parity with all of the Intel 10th gen parts. And it's pretty obvious what you're going to do, right? If something is 20% cheaper and performs the same, you are going to get the 20% lower cost version. Because with CPUs, it doesn't really matter as long as it gets the job done. Right. So that's about all the news that we have for you today. It's a big week, and we'll try and talk about Black Lives Matters more when it's necessary to do so. We will use our platform to make voices heard, and we urge our listeners and our viewers to do the same. So until next time, if you like this video, please click on the like button and make sure to subscribe to this channel for more of our videos. And also, I wanted to plug some of the other videos that I've been doing this week. We had a Microsoft Xbox Series X video that I just put out a couple of days ago, so you can check that out. So in that video, I'm talking about how it's not just about the hardware that is important, for when people come to choose the console that they want to buy. So Microsoft need to be aware that it's not just, you can't just rely on the hardware specs. There's other factors involved, and if you check that video out, go and check that video out to see what my views are. So in the coming week, I also want to do a Nintendo video as well, because I've done a Sony one and a Microsoft one, and now I want to do a Nintendo one. And right now I'm also playing Yakuza Kiwami 2. I've almost finished that, so there'll be a review coming out shortly, maybe about a week or 2 weeks away, depending on how quickly I get it done. But yeah, until next time, please continue to check on the channel, and I'll see you next time.